January 22nd, 2026. Thank you so much for joining us for Live Impact News. My name is Marta Berglund. I am not Eugene. I'm here to fill in for him today. So we're excited to get things kicked off. We do have a busy show for you. We have a few live events that we're monitoring throughout our live channels this morning. But of course, the big story on our minds here in Virginia and across the country is, of course, that winter storm that is headed our way. So we had to bring in meteorologist Craig Moeller right away to kick things off. Hi, Craig.
You have to, or you get to bring in meteorologists?
I have to, I get to. It's all the same.
Anyway, great to see you here, Marta. And again, excited to be a part of your first time hosting Live Impact News. Marta is a phenomenal journalist and excited to see what she does here as well. What we're going to talk about right out of the gates, 1,800 miles. That is the span of the areas under winter storm watch as we head to the weekend. This is not a small area or an isolated region that's going to get hit. Everybody else is fine. This is a large part of the country that will be hit with wintry weather, and we do have those winter storm watches out. Let's go ahead and talk about this. First of all, I just want to mention very quickly these areas shaded in pink back across Oklahoma, North Texas, Northwest Arkansas, and even parts of New York State there around Rochester, those areas under winter storm warnings. We have these areas shaded in purple back in western parts of Colorado, southern Montana, a little bit around the Great Lakes there, winter weather advisories. That's some lake effect snow up there coming off Superior and off of Lake Michigan. And it looks like maybe a little bit up around Ontario as well, impacting portions of New York State. But this big area shaded in blue, that is the area that is under winter storm watch for this larger system that is going to produce snow. It's going to produce mixed precipitation in terms of sleet, maybe some freezing rain, and eventually rain for parts of the area as well. Now, as you look at the state of Virginia, the entire Commonwealth under this winter storm watch for North Carolina, it's the central and western parts of North Carolina, right along the coast and the Outer Banks. You are not under the winter watch at this point. And the thinking is that it's going to be warm enough where it's going to be mainly rain. You'll probably see a little bit of mix or some snow showers at the beginning, but as warmer air comes into the system, should transition more to rain there. Had a few sprinkles down to the south early this morning. And Marta, I will invite you to jump in at any point if you have questions about any of this. Feel free to interrupt.
Thank you.
Because as Sarah will tell you, I get on a roll sometimes talking.
For now, we're good, but I will have questions.
All right. So just jump in. Don't hesitate to interrupt. Down across the southeast, we're looking at rain this morning. Georgia into Alabama and down around Mississippi. That stuff is working east. Here's the outlook. So this is 2 days from now. Okay, we're looking ahead to Saturday morning. Snow across the central U.S., Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas. They're all going to be dealing with snow as this system moves along. South of that area I just identified, you get down to southern Oklahoma, Arkansas, North Texas, northern Louisiana, northern sections of Mississippi, some freezing rain and mixed precipitation there. As this moisture works eastward and encounters cold air that will be in place from this Arctic air mass that settles in over the eastern U.S., that sets the stage for snow. Initially for Hampton Roads, heavier snow, and then that snow will transition to mix and freezing rain and eventually rain there along the coast. This is the GFS model that is projecting that. That's into Sunday. And look at that area of pink, a prolonged, kind of drawn out time period with that freezing rain and mixed precipitation. That's why there could be some significant icing out in that part of the Commonwealth and into North Carolina. Looking at the Euro, similar snow comes in late Saturday, and then overnight it transitions to mix and eventually rain near the coast. That wedge of cold air, what we call cold air damming, kind of pinned between the Appalachians and the coast. We're going to see that cold air in place, prolonging the freezing rain potential into Sunday night and even early Monday before it moves out. And we'll see improvements after that. It's going to stay cold. Here's a look at how the models have been trending, okay? Monday when I came in, you remember that talk, right, Marta?
Yeah. It was literally, like 20 inches.
I was like, Marta, oh my gosh. All of these models are pointing to heavy snow. Mm-hmm. Now, this is something that I can only do with Marta here because she and one other person were the only people that we had this conversation. You asked me for fun Monday.
Yes.
She goes, what's your gut tell you? What do you think's going to happen? This is when the models were saying like 12 to 24 inches.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what my answer was?
I think you said 3.
Yeah.
And I was a little disappointed. But yeah, 3. And I think Taylor Stephenson, one of our
We're going to
other
leave her off the
meteorologists,
record. No.
didn't say 3.
Taylor was more bullish. That's all I'll say.
Yes.
No, we were having fun. Taylor said, I don't know, 13 inches. I mean, that's what she said. But she I said, the reason I said 3 was not to throw a wet blanket on this. But the reality is, even though the models project crazy amounts of snow that far in advance, knowing that just a little subtle track shift would knock down the totals, that is exactly what we have seen happen. So again, this is having been here since 1997. I've seen a few of these things kind of go this way. That all being said, there's still time. I mean, the models could come back the other way a little bit. So we're not being dismissive about the heavier stuff, but the models have been trending from tons of snow Monday down to less snow yesterday or Tuesday. We saw rain at the coast, mix inland, and then yesterday, all of a sudden, the ice threat started to really ramp up and the snow threat really came down. So that's been the model trend over the past few days. Here are the impacts. Again, as it sits right now, and things could change, but as it sits right now, we're going to see rain at the coast, but it's not going to be anything catastrophic in terms of rainfall. Snow, those weather impacts are going to be moderate, we'll say, because I think still some heavier snow. The northern parts of the area still potentially will see that. Ice is going to be the biggest concern for me for inland areas, and then wind and cold, not too bad, although it will be breezy. And when you have breezy conditions, like I expect Sunday night into Monday, and you've got ice on power lines, it can create what we call galloping lines, where the lines start to fluctuate a little bit. They can bend around, sometimes break or touch into each other, short out. Power outage threat is increasing. All right, so how about our forecast confidence? Marta, I know you like to discuss this, right? Precip type, very confident that we're going to see the full array, everything in play from snow in the morning. So I think Saturday night starts off as snow. Got a text from a buddy of mine, Rick Rumble, who hosts Rumble in the Mornings on FM 99. He said, what do I need, a shovel or an umbrella? He said, both. All right. Shovel for Saturday night into early Sunday, but then an umbrella for most of the day Sunday as that snow transitions to mix and eventually rain for much of Hampton Roads. There's going to be sleet, there's going to be mix, and there's going to be freezing rain potentially, especially the western part of the metro area on through the Piedmont of Virginia and North Carolina. That freezing rain really could be problematic. Snow totals, this is the one area that we're not very confident in because in general, yeah, the picture's becoming clearer. More snow to the north, less to the south and near the coast. But the models are still highly variable in what they are producing. The Euro's saying very little, like maybe an inch. The GFS model is saying, well, maybe 5, 5.5, something like that in Norfolk before the transition. Doesn't really matter that much for much of the metro because whatever we get, as we get rain on top of it, it's either going to pack it down and, make it look a lot less pretty or, it'll wash a lot of it away. So that's what's going on. Storm timing, we have high confidence on as this has consistently been looking at a Saturday afternoon into Saturday night, Sunday, and early Monday situation. Snow odds from the models. Euro is backing off a little bit. Only a 60% chance we see an inch or more if the Euro is correct. These are the ensembles, by the way, where they take a whole bunch of different, little subtle variations and keep running the model over and over and over. So the Euro is saying, there's a 60% chance, or in 60% of the runs, we get an inch or more. 20% of the time, the Euro produces a 3-inch, total or more. There's virtually none of them are saying 6 to 12. So that's been taken out with the Euro. GFS says, hey, there's a 90% chance that we'll see at least an inch. So as it starts, we get that snow. And there's a 50% chance we have more than 3 inches. I mean, that's a mantle of white. When you wake up, you see that pretty snow on the ground. That's kind of cool. Take a few pictures. Take the dog out for a walk early in the morning. Maybe a little bit of snow out there. Only a 10% chance that we see 6 inches or more. And then the Euro AI is at 70% for 1 inch, 30% for 3, and 10% for 6. You see all those red arrows, that means the models are backing off on the snow totals or chances for it. The GFS, though, for 1 inch is saying, no, we're pretty confident that it's going to go up. Snow potentials, I mentioned the Euro, an inch or less. In Virginia Beach, for instance, a dusting, maybe a heavy dusting to a half inch in Chesapeake. You get up on the peninsula, Euro's still saying, okay, 1 to 2 inches possible. Up around West Point, 3 inches, heavier amounts up towards Tappahannock and Richmond. The GFS, though, that one is saying 5.2 inches for Norfolk right now, and yesterday it was down at 4.7, so it's actually added a little more snow to its output. Again, I'm not too hung up on that because I still think we're going to see that transition to mix and rain later, which will knock down whatever we see anyway. All right, now the ice potential, this is what really has got my attention. Potential for significant ice, especially inland. This, just like the snow models earlier were calling for tremendous amounts, this can change significantly.
Is that inches of ice?
Yeah, that right now is what the Euro is projecting in inches of ice. I mean, 2.25 inches. Think about how much ice that is.
Like on the roads or just on the trees?
Just falling. That's what this
yeah.
is saying could fall and collect. Again, those most likely overdone. To have that much ice on everything would be tremendous, okay? But the bottom line is you don't need that much to have major issues. If you have just a 1/4 inch or less, avoid unnecessary travel. Light ice on trees, maybe some scattered power outages. You get a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch, now you've got icy roads, which you do not want to travel on at all, broken tree limbs, and numerous power outages. Once you get over a 1/2 inch, and those areas that look pretty crazy with the projections right now, which will likely back off as we go, still you could have over a 1/2 inch, and where you have that 1/2 inch or more, roads become dangerous, if not impassable in some places. Widespread tree damage and longer-term outages are possible. So this is something that we will need to watch very, very carefully. And again, the model's showing the onset with snow, then that transition. That's the GFS. You see the snow there through Sunday morning, changing over to mix and freezing rain, and then eventually rain later on Sunday. That's the GFS. Here's a look at the Euro. Again, snow developing a little bit later, Saturday evening, not as long a duration. That's why the Euro doesn't have as much snow. But then look at that pink area out to the west, pretty much just camped out there with prolonged period of freezing rain, while we see mostly rain here in Hampton Roads and along the coast. So that's how the models are handling it, guys. We've got a lot to watch. Marta, do you guys have questions, or Sarah? Feel free to ask away. I mean, that's really what I wanted to get to off the top.
I've noticed the 13 News Now weather team has not said how much snow you officially are predicting at this point. Is that normal to be, 48 hours out and still not safe?
We could throw out numbers, but let's talk about that. I mean, okay, so let's say we get a 1 to 2 inches. It's going to rain on top of it and largely wash away. So you wake up the next morning, it's going to be slushy. Doesn't really matter. Oh, by the way, this model says 4 inches, 5 inches. This model says a 1/4 inch or less. I mean, there's so much variability, and the ultimate impacts, are going to be largely kind of diminished because of the mix that's coming in quickly on top of it. So we haven't worried as much about it forecasting out. If this looked like it was going to be a crippling snow, that's where we would put our focus on trying to pin that down. I think that the truth in the total amount of snow lies somewhere in between the Euro and the GFS. I think the GFS will probably, those numbers be knocked down a little bit. And I think the Euro may not be accounting for some of the snow at the onset that the GFS is picking up on. So I'm not saying that to be snarky. What I'm saying is we're looking at high variability with the models, and the ultimate impacts, are going to be largely kind of reduced because we're getting the mix in right on top of it. And that's why we were starting to put together some of the projections, and our chief meteorologist, Tim Pandey, said, hey, let's hold off till sometime today and staking out, this is our official snow forecast. We want to get a look at some more models and see if they start to come into line. One more time, you can see again that high variability. Euro, less than an inch. GFS, 5 inches or more. again,
those would be two very different situations.
It's interesting, but that little thing that I threw out Monday, around 3 inches, maybe 3.5, may come in pretty good. Yeah. 5 days, six days early. So we'll see. Again, we will be working to pin down those numbers. And a lot of times we can do it a little bit earlier, but this has been changing so much. And the exact track of the low will also have some implications. So what I want our viewers and listeners to take away more than anything else, we see snow Saturday night into early Sunday. Then we start to see mix. We could see some freezing rain, but likely sleet mixing with rain at the coast, changing to rain, and then sleet and freezing rain potentially inland. Significant icing potentially away from the coast, and we're going to see more wet weather, then turning cold. Monday morning, it could end as another mix. It may transition back to mix. So we'll be working to get that. Tomorrow on Daybreak, we should have some snow totals maps for you.
But we're currently under a winter storm watch.
A watch, which as we get closer to it, within 24 to 36 hours, they'll flip it to a warning.
Okay.
So
because some areas are already under a warning, right?
Correct. And those areas out to the west, like Oklahoma was one of the areas under a winter storm warning, they're expecting it to begin sooner. It'll start late tomorrow. So they're kind of getting to that window. For us, because it's not really coming in until late Saturday, we just under watch to make sure everybody's thinking about it. Emergency managers are coordinating. City managers are all, getting their preps done. We've heard from Newport News and Richmond. All around the region, folks are getting ready for it. But once we're within that time period closer to the event, it'll flip to a warning.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Craig.
You got it.
Appreciate it. And speaking of those leaders kind of issuing statements and preparing people, we're going to hear from Governor Josh Stein, we think a little bit later on this morning at around 11. But he has already issued a statement. North Carolina is under a state of emergency for this weather event. He says, quote, "Now is the time to be prepared and get everything you need in advance of the storm. The roads may be slick and dangerous. Unless absolutely necessary, make a plan to stay home until the weather improves." And that's kind of, the case across the board in states where we're not used to seeing this kind of weather, whether that's snow, whether that's ice, whatever it may be. So that's Governor Josh Stein. And again, he is planning to speak with the media a little bit later on this morning. So hopefully we can bring that to you live if all goes well. And he'll provide some more insight on, what exactly they're preparing to do in North Carolina. And then, of course, we'll take a look at Virginia as well. All right, coming up after the break, we're going to take a look at some more live events. We're monitoring a few live feeds around the region, including Special Counsel Jack Smith testifying today in front of the House. We've got some other events planned. But first, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, thanks for staying with us here on Live Impact News. Again, my name is Marta Berglund. I'm filling in for Eugene today. And as mentioned before the break, we are monitoring a few live events happening now and also a few that are just wrapping up. So what you're looking at right now, we've got the House Oversight Committee having special counsel Jack Smith testify, and he is the special counsel that looked into Trump's alleged involvement in the 2020 election and also his alleged mishandling of classified documents. So that's what you see in that top box right there. And then in the bottom, Vice President J.D. Vance is in Toledo, Ohio today. He announced that he was going to talk about the economy, but it was a very general announcement. So first we're going to go to Vice President Vance. We're going to hear what he had to say to Ohio residents this morning, and then we'll go to that special counsel Jack Smith hearing and see what he has to say about his findings on current President Donald Trump.
And it also makes housing less affordable. It is very simple. Enforcing immigration law lowers prices for Americans and makes our communities safer. It's a no-brainer, so we'd encourage local authorities to continue to collaborate and work with us instead of fighting against us. Next question.
Good morning, Mr. Vice President. Thank you so much. Kyle Mazza, freelancing for Anadolu Agency today. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky announced at today's summit for the World Economic Forum that Ukraine, Russia, and the U.S. will hold their first trilateral talks Friday and Saturday, the 23rd and 24th, in the United Arab Emirates. Seeing what your reaction is to that about those talks. And in Minneapolis, sir, the attacks on law enforcement, the attacks on ICE, what is your message to the law enforcement community at this time when they look for the Trump and the Vance administration to calm their nerves, to ease their burdens? Families are reacting to this as well. So as you stand there on that stage today, how does that make you feel?
Well, one of the things that we want to do is send a message to our local law enforcement, to our federal law enforcement, that we stand with them. And we're not going to abandon them, and we're not going to do what the last administration did, which is throw them under the bus to appease a bunch of left-wing radicals. We're actually going to fight for them. Because I believe, look, I continue to be fundamentally optimistic about our country. I think that whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, most people in this country fundamentally still support law enforcement. They love what people do to keep them safe. They recognize it's dangerous. But what happened in the Democratic Party over the last few years is they allowed a very small band of left-wing crazies to drive the agenda, and that makes our cops and our federal law enforcement feel less safe. It makes it feel like their government doesn't have their back. Well, I promise them, every single police officer in this country and every single federal law enforcement officer in this country, we have your back, and that's one of the messages I'm trying to send by going to Minneapolis and talking to our ICE officers there. So that's number one. Number two, you talk about attacks on law enforcement. It is insane. I understand, look, I'm biased, obviously. I think the Trump-Vance administration has got the right approach to immigration. I think it's insane to let tens of millions of people flood across your country, many of them with violent criminal records, and then to say you're not allowed to do anything to get those people out of your country. That's crazy to me. Fine. If you disagree, if you think that we ought to let sex offenders be in your community, even if they're illegal aliens, fine. Make that argument. But make that argument at the ballot box. Write an op-ed in a newspaper. Argue about it on social media. Don't go to the streets and start assaulting federal law enforcement officers because you disagree with the policies of our administration. It's cowardly bullshit, and it's got to stop. And here's the excuse my language to all the kids there. I'm sorry. Got a little fired up. I was raised by a woman who cussed a lot, so sometimes I do too. My wife's on me. We're working on it. But here's the final point about this. People who assault federal law enforcement or local law enforcement will be shown no quarter. I just, probably 5 minutes before I got on stage, I got a message from our great Attorney General, Pam Bondi. You know what Pam said to me? That they finally arrested the ringleader of those church protests in Minneapolis. So here's the thing. Again, you don't have to agree with my immigration policies, but if you want to protest by going to an innocent church service on a Sunday, you see these images. They're scaring little kids who are there to worship God on a Sunday morning. Those people are going to be sent to prison so long as we have the power to do so. We're going to do everything that we can to enforce the law, whether you're protesting at a church, which is a violation of federal law, or you're assaulting a law enforcement officer, which again is a violation of federal law. There are going to be consequences. There already have been consequences, and there are going to be a lot more to come. So my message is, if you're thinking about assaulting a law enforcement, don't, because we're going to lock you up if you do. Now, you asked about Zelensky and Russia and Ukraine. Look, the president, he talks about this all the time. This has been the hardest war to solve. Of the 8 wars that the president has solved, he thought this would be the easiest. It's ended up being the hardest. The fact that they're sitting down and talking is progress. And I think we've made a lot of progress here. But look, you've got 2 people who really hate each other. The President of the United States' attitude is quite simple, and I happen to think that it's exactly right. Peace is what is in the best interest of the United States of America. We want commerce between those 2 countries. We want Europe to be less focused on war and more focused on investing in the United States of America. And the best way to do that is to get that war to a peaceful resolution. We're going to keep on working on it. I've been disappointed in the past where I thought we were close to a peace deal, so I'm not going to predict that anything is going to happen in the next couple of weeks. But I know under the president's leadership, we've made great progress, and we're going to keep on making progress so we can stop the killing and get back to actually building things all over the world as opposed to people killing each other and tearing things down.
All right, once again, that was President or Vice President J.D. Vance speaking in Toledo, Ohio, and his comments just wrapped up a few minutes ago. So I know it said previously recorded, but that was recorded within the last hour. So very fresh sound there. And again, he spoke about his support for local law enforcement, the administration's support for local law enforcement, saying the administration stands with them, is not going to abandon them, and also said to protesters, and this is a quote, "Don't go in the streets and start assaulting law enforcement officers." So that was his message this morning. And then also said in relation to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, peace is in the best interest of the United States. All right, when we come back here on Live Impact News, we're going to check in with that testimony from Special Counsel Jack Smith. Again, Special Counsel who investigated President Donald Trump for his alleged involvement in the 2020 election and mishandling classified documents. We'll get the latest on that. We'll be right back. to Live Impact News here on 13 News Now Plus. Thanks for sticking with us for the latest live news, both around Hampton Roads, Virginia, and also around the country. We are going to check in with the testifying from Special Counsel Jack Smith. He is testifying right now live to the House Judiciary Committee. And just to review, if that name sounds familiar, he investigated President Donald Trump's alleged involvement in the 2020 election. He also investigated the alleged mishandling of classified documents by President Donald Trump, and then the alleged refusal to turn them back over to the federal government. So after Trump was elected in 2024, Smith asked a judge to dismiss these cases because the Department of Justice has the Justice Department has a long-standing policy that bars the prosecution of a sitting president. However, this is the second time in 2 months that Smith is testifying in front of this committee. The first time was behind closed doors, and now we are able to see what he's saying. So we're going to check in, see what the members of the House Judiciary Committee ask him and what he has to say about these investigations.
Particular virtues, but let's go to the toll record since that's been raised, Mr. Smith. First of all, Congress has allowed toll records to be subpoenaed. This committee has actually tried to limit it over the years, and the senators who are whining the most over on the Republican side in the Senate, they never went along with our determination to try to limit the government's ability to subpoena toll records. So it's perfectly lawful what you did. Explain, why did you want those toll records?
We wanted to conduct a thorough investigation of the matters that was assigned to me, including attempts to interfere with the lawful transfer of power. The conspiracy that we were investigating, it was relevant to get toll records to understand the scope of that conspiracy, who they were seeking to coerce, who they were seeking to influence, who was seeking to help them.
And that's normal investigative practice, right?
In conducting a criminal investigation, securing non-content toll records, as you described, is a common practice in almost any complex conspiracy.
Okay, let's go to something else that I've been hearing over the last week by our colleagues as they've eagerly anticipated your arrival here. They've been saying that there's some kind of First Amendment defense that Donald Trump would have had to the crimes you indicted him for. Is there a valid First Amendment defense to defrauding the public? Is there a valid First Amendment defense to disrupting a federal proceeding? Is there a valid First Amendment defense to violating the voting rights of the people and cheating the public out of a fair election?
The First Amendment is something that we took seriously in our investigation. But the First Amendment does not protect speech that facilitates a crime. Speech that is used to facilitate a crime, a fraud crime in particular, is not protected under the First Amendment. The Supreme Court precedent on that is clear. This is an issue that we litigated before the district court, and the district court ruled, as I just stated, that it is not in fact protected.
And the case law is perfectly clear on this, right? All frauds are perpetrated by speech, right?
Yes.
All conspiracies are perpetrated by speech. So just because your criminal conduct is brigaded with speech doesn't somehow mean you've got a First Amendment defense against trying to overthrow the government. I mean, the people who attacked the police officers on January 6th were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." I suppose that was political speech, or they were saying, "Stop the steal." Does that mean they've got a First Amendment defense to violent assault against the officers?
It does not.
William Barr, by the way, was somebody who was perfectly clear about that. Donald Trump's own attorney general said, there's no freedom of speech that you have to engage in a conspiracy, to overthrow an election, to commit crime. He was perfectly clear about that. Back in those days, in fact, lots of people on that side of the aisle, including my good friend, the chairman, denounced the violence that took place on January 6th. The cat's got their tongue these days. My friend Chairman Jordan said, What happened last week was terrible, it was tragic. It's as wrong can be, he said. Republicans, we know all political violence is wrong. I asked my friend Chairman Jordan at a rules hearing, are you also not interested in what happened to us on January 6th? He said, of course, everyone's interested in holding people accountable who did wrong. The FBI is doing that. The Justice Department is doing that, appropriately so. What do you think about the attack on the Department of Justice and the special counsel for doing your jobs?
I think the attack is unjustified. I think the people who worked with me as career public servants are people, they're part of the reason I've been a prosecutor for so long, is to work with people like that, not just the prosecutors in my office, but also the agents, FBI agents who are heroes, who have served their country not only as agents, but also overseas. I think those attacks are unwarranted based on the facts, and I think that they have no basis in who we are as Americans, as a country. I don't see attacking people like that as anything appropriate.
Thank you, and Mr. Chairman, I yield back to you.
The gentleman yields back. Mr. Smith, is Cassidy Hutchinson a liar? She was their star witness, January 6th committee, their star witness in one of those staged and choreographed hearings they paid the former president of ABC News to put together. She was, in fact, the only witness at this special prime time hearing, Tuesday, June 28th, 2022, 8 o'clock in the evening, and she told some stories. I mean, these were some stories. She talked about President lunged across the back seat, grabbed the steering wheel, tried to drive the car to the Capitol. And I just want to know, you think she was lying?
Chairman Jordan, my assessment of that particular issue is that with respect to the testimony about someone the president lunging towards the driver, my recollection of her testimony about that is that it was secondhand. She said she'd heard that from somebody.
You familiar with the name Tony Ornato?
I'm sorry, sir?
You familiar with the name Tony Ornato?
Yes.
White House Deputy Chief of Operations, Deputy Chief of Staff for Operations, right? You remember what he said about it?
As I sit here right now, I do not.
Yeah, he said it didn't happen. How about Bobby Engel? You familiar with that name?
Yes, I am.
Secret Service agent who was actually in the car that day. You know what he said? He said it didn't happen. And they both said the first time they ever heard this story was when Ms. Hutchinson testified in the primetime hearing as their star witness of the January 6th committee. By the way, did you ever confirm her testimony about this particular incident?
We conducted, as I said before, our own independent investigation of all aspects of the case that we thought was relevant. We, attorneys from my office.
Did you ever confirm it? That's a simple question.
Well, we interviewed, or I should say attorneys in my office before.
Did you ever confirm the president leaping across the seat, grabbing the steering wheel, this whole concoction she brought up in the January 6th hearing? Did you ever confirm that?
Right. We interviewed another firsthand witness who was in the car who did not confirm that had happened, but also
in your deposition to the committee last month, Mr. Smith, you said this: my recollection with Ms. Hutchinson was a number of the things that she gave evidence on were secondhand hearsay. You remember making that statement to us last month in the deposition?
I did, and I was referring particularly to what we're talking about now.
Yeah, and you also said Ms. Hutchinson, regarding this particular claim, was a second or even third-hand witness. We asked you, if you were a defense attorney, how would you handle cross-examining her if she was on the witness stand? And you said, if I were a defense attorney and Ms. Hutchinson were a witness, the first thing I would do was seek to preclude her testimony because it was hearsay. You remember saying all that?
Yes, that's correct, sir.
That's correct, right? Were you going to put her on the witness stand if you ever got to trial?
We had not made final determinations as to who we were going to call as a witness. We had a large...
You were still considering her?
We had a large choice of witnesses in this case.
Are you familiar with what Washington Post reporters Carol Leonnig and Aaron Davis said in their book? They did this book, 300-some pages book on chronicling the whole investigation of the Justice Department. And here's what they said. on page 310. They said Jack Smith had wondered whether some of Hutchinson's claims might be relied upon at trial. Still, at one point, Smith told the elections team he wasn't ready to give up on Hutchinson's account. Ultimately, however, Trump administration officials uniformly, fiercely disputed her accounts under oath. Prosecutors on your team told Smith they wouldn't want to use Hutchinson as a witness in court, and Smith agreed. Are Carol Leonnig and Aaron Davis, who wrote this, are they lying?
My recollection is that I certainly had not made any final determinations about who we were going to call.
And that's the point. That is the point. The fact that they used her in a primetime hearing and you won't rule out using her, or didn't rule out using her, putting her on the witness stand when everybody knows she wasn't telling the truth, that says it all. That's the degree the left and Democrats were willing to go to get President Trump, putting on the witness stand someone everybody knows is making it up. Everybody knows that. And you were willing to do it. By the way, you know how many times Cassidy Hutchinson was mentioned in their report, the January 6th report? Any idea, Mr. Smith?
I do not.
185 times. Someone that the whole country knows wasn't telling the truth, and you were still considering putting her on the witness stand because you had to get President Trump. And everybody can see that. We better take a recess for votes. We will resume as soon as votes are over. Back here 10 minutes after. Mrs. Smith, you guys can go back to the room that you were in.
And again, now they are in recess. The House Judiciary Committee hearing testimony from Special Counsel Jack Smith, again, the special prosecutor who investigated President Donald Trump in two separate cases, one tied to the 2020 election, one tied to classified documents. And the people you heard speaking to Jack Smith and asking him questions was Jamie Raskin, the representative from Maryland, a Democrat, and then Representative Jim Jordan, who chairs that committee. So those were the two members of Congress that you heard asking him questions. We're going to take a break for Live Impact News. We'll be back with a live interview in just a few minutes on the impact of artificial intelligence on college students, college campuses, and their education. And then, of course, we'll have more on this impending winter storm that's headed our way this weekend. So stay here. right, thanks for joining us here for Live Impact News. As we continue on through today, the 22nd of January, we're watching a few live events happening right now. In just a few minutes, we're going to have a live interview with a college professor from Elon University talking about the impact of artificial intelligence on college campuses. And then a little bit later on in the show, we're going to hear from meteorologist Hunter Forst on the impact of this winter storm that's headed our way. We're also going to hear more of Trump's comments on Greenland. We're going to get the latest on that situation and where things stand with the United States and Europe as those tensions continue. But first, we have a little bit of a lighthearted story that we're going to take right now. This is a live look that we're going to look at here. You may have heard about this Walk for Peace pilgrimage that is ongoing across the United States right now. It is a group of monks that are walking across the country promoting peace. They're going from Fort Worth, Texas to Washington, D.C., and today they are in North Carolina. So this is near Chatham County. As they make their way down the roadway, you can see people stopping to take pictures. We've had law enforcement that have come and, guided them and escorted them this morning. So that walk is ongoing. I think this camera view was originally set in place to talk about weather preparation. So nice that we have the monks walking for peace. They might get a little bit cold as this winter storm makes its way through the region. So we'll continue to wish them the best as they continue on their way. And then, of course, we'll check in with them as they continue their journey. All right, we're now going to shift gears to the latest from President Donald Trump and his take on Greenland. Of course, he has said in the past that Greenland is necessary for national security. That has met pushback from NATO and other European nations, including Denmark and, representatives from Greenland who are in the parliament there. So the latest development, Trump has sort of backed off his stance a little bit, talking about taking over and needing the territory. He also had threatened tariffs on European nations that pushed back. So this is the latest statement that we've heard from him, and this was from yesterday. So let's hear what he had to say.
We want strong allies, not seriously weakened ones. We want Europe to be strong. Ultimately, these are matters of national security, and perhaps no current issue makes the situation more clear than what's currently going on with Greenland. Would you like me to say a few words of Greenland? I was going to leave it out of the speech, but I think I would have been reviewed very negatively. I have tremendous respect for both the people of Greenland and the people of Denmark, tremendous respect. But every NATO ally has an obligation to be able to defend their own territory. And the fact is, no nation or group of nations is in any position to be able to secure Greenland other than the United States. We're a great power, much greater than people even understand. I think they found that out 2 weeks ago in Venezuela. We saw this in World War II when Denmark fell to Germany after just 6 hours of fighting and was totally unable to defend either itself or Greenland. So the United States was then compelled, we did it, we felt an obligation to do it, to send our own forces to hold the Greenland territory. And hold it we did at great cost and expense. They didn't have a chance of getting on it, and they tried. Denmark knows that. We literally set up bases on Greenland for Denmark. We fought for Denmark. We weren't fighting for anyone else. We were fighting to save it for Denmark. Big, beautiful piece of ice. It's hard to call it land. It's a big piece of ice. But we saved Greenland and successfully prevented our enemies from gaining a foothold in our hemisphere. So we did it for ourselves also. And then after the war, which we won it big. Without us, right now you'd all be speaking German and a little Japanese, perhaps. After the war, we gave Greenland back to Denmark. How stupid were we to do that But we did it. But we gave it back. But how ungrateful are they now? So now our country and the world face much greater risks than it did ever before because of missiles, because of nuclear, because of weapons of warfare that I can't even talk about. 2 weeks ago, they saw weapons that nobody ever heard of. They weren't able to fire one shot at us. They said, what happened? Everything was discombobulated. They said, we've got them in our sights. Press the trigger, and nothing happened. No anti-aircraft missiles went up. There was one that went up about 30 feet and crashed down right next to the people that sent it. They said, what the hell is going on? Those defensive systems were made by Russia and by China. So they're going to go back to the drawing boards, I guess. Greenland is a vast, almost entirely uninhabited and undeveloped territory. It's sitting undefended in a key strategic location between the United States, Russia, and China. That's exactly where it is, right smack in the middle. Wasn't important nearly when we gave it back. You know, when we gave it back, it wasn't the same as it is now. It's not important for any other reason, you know. Everyone talks about the minerals. There's so many places. There's no rare earth. No such thing as rare earth. There's rare processing. But there's so much rare earth. And to get to this rare earth, you got to go through hundreds of feet of ice. That's not the reason we need it. We need it for strategic national security and international security. This enormous unsecured island is actually part of North America, on the northern frontier of the Western Hemisphere. That's our territory. It is therefore a core national security interest of the United States of America. And in fact, it's been our policy for hundreds of years to prevent outside threats from entering our hemisphere. And we've done it very successfully. We've never been stronger than we are now. That's why American presidents have sought to purchase Greenland for nearly 2 centuries. You know, for 2 centuries they've been trying to do it. They should have kept it after World War II, but they had a different president. That's all right. People think differently. Much more necessary now than it was at that time, however. In 2019, Denmark said that they would spend over $200 million to strengthen Greenland's defenses. But as you know, they spent less than 1% of that amount. 1%. There's no sign of Denmark there. And I say that with great respect for Denmark, whose people I love, whose leaders are very good. It's the United States alone that can protect this giant mass of land, this giant piece of ice, develop it and improve it and make it so that it's good for Europe and safe for Europe and good for us. And that's the reason I'm seeking immediate negotiations to once again discuss the acquisition of Greenland by the United States, just as we have acquired many other territories throughout our history, as many of the European nations have. They've acquired. There's nothing wrong with it. Many of them. Some went in reverse, actually, if you look. Some had great, vast wealth, great, vast lands all over the world. They went in reverse. They're stuck back where they started. That happens too. But some grow. But this would not be a threat to NATO. This would greatly enhance the security of the entire alliance, the NATO alliance. The United States is treated very unfairly by NATO. I want to tell you that. And when you think about it, nobody can dispute it. We give so much and we get so little in return. And I've been a critic of NATO for many years. And yet I've done more to help NATO than any other president by far, than any other person. You wouldn't have NATO if I didn't get involved in my first term. The war with Ukraine is an example. We are thousands of miles away, separated by a giant ocean. It's a war that should have never started, and it wouldn't have started if the 2020 U.S. presidential election weren't rigged. It was a rigged election. Everybody now knows that. They found out. People will soon be prosecuted for what they did. It's probably breaking news, but it should be. It was a rigged election. You can't have rigged elections. You need strong borders, strong
All right, once again, that was President Donald Trump speaking in Davos, Switzerland at the World Economic Forum. So, just to recap, he has kind of ruled out using military force to take Greenland, which he called a big, beautiful piece of ice. But there is still this tone of wanting and needing Greenland for United States security. So still a lot to watch that situation. We're going to continue to monitor it. We're going to take a quick break, and then again, we have a live guest talking about the impact of artificial intelligence on colleges and universities and education in general. So stay tuned for that. And then, of course, after, we'll have more on the weather forecast as this winter storm heads our way.
Everything is on the
All right, thanks for sticking with us with Live Impact News here on 13 News Now. Plus, we have a special guest now with the Elon University Imagining the Digital Future Center. Joining us now to discuss the impact of artificial intelligence on education is the director of the center, Lee Rainey. Lee, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's great to be with you, Marta.
So let's first start off. What is this center? What is the work you do, and what are you hoping to find out?
Well, we're a research center that focuses on digital life, particularly looking at the future, so what people are expecting. And it came out of a lot of work that I used to do at a think tank in Washington called the Pew Research Center, and now we've transported it over to Elon University in North Carolina. One of the things we do is look at the impact of the artificial intelligence revolution on higher education. This survey was a survey of 1,057 faculty members around the nation, how they think AI is affecting their work, their lives, and their campuses.
And is this survey something you've done before, or is this a new report that you guys have introduced with, of course, AI becoming so much more popular?
Well, this is the first time we've interviewed faculty and did a poll of faculty. Last year, we did a similar survey of university leaders. So we talked to presidents and provosts and chancellors and important deans on many campuses around the country. So this is a follow-on to that effort. And it's the first time that we've taken a swing at this. And we just found just enormous levels of concern and dread and worry about the impact of AI, both on the student lives of the faculty members that these folks are teaching, as well as on sort of general practices on campus, like how do you do teaching and learning when there's a counterintelligence now that's as smart as some people and might complete their assignments. So we asked some questions about cheating and things like that.
Yeah, and you mentioned concern and skepticism. One of the figures that stood out to me was 90% of those surveys saying the use of generative AI will diminish student critical thinking skills. Can you talk a little bit about what professors told you about their concerns, specifically with how students do their work and how they learn?
There are some important concerns just about the students deferring to AI, allowing AI answers to substitute for their own thinking and judgment. There's also a lot of concern about student attention spans. And so the sense is that the sort of basic thing that happens in classrooms, teaching and learning, isn't quite the same thing that it used to be before generative AI systems came into being. There's a palpable sense that students can misuse these tools, that they can fall victim to these tools, and that they can just defer to them in circumstances where in days gone by, students would have had to rely on their own wits and wisdom and critical thinking.
And I was also curious about the amount of professors that feel that schools are underprepared for generative AI. What were your findings when it relates to how colleges and universities respond to all of these technologies popping up?
It's really important to remember that ChatGPT came into existence as a public technology just 3 years ago, November 30th, 2022. So there's this enormous disruption that's sweeping through the culture, and especially through education systems. And what you get out of these faculty answers is that they are still trying to figure out what's going on, the right way to apply these tools, the things to be wary about and concerned about, the things that just really give them pause. About a quarter of these faculty members told us they don't use generative AI like ChatGPT and Claude themselves. And about a third of them said they wouldn't ever bring it into their classrooms for their teaching practices. So there's still a lot of concern just about generally bringing this thing to schools. The other thing that was popped out of our survey was that there is not a consensus about what's cheating and what's legitimate when you use AI. There are certain grand things that they say, but there's a lot of dispute about the right and wrong uses of AI.
Right, and the report doesn't say, AI is bad or AI is good. I think it's just, it's here and these are the opinions. You mentioned the split verdicts on, what's allowed. Do you find that there are people who refuse to use it at all and then people who completely embrace it? Or what are professors doing to tackle this issue?
Well, first you've picked up the right thing, that there's a very broad distribution of usage and non-usage on campus. A lot of professors don't want to bring it anywhere near their lives and near their classes. And yet there's also a very enthusiastic cohort of professors who are bringing it to their classes, creating new tools for learning and teaching and things like that. So there's hardly a consensus on campus about the right and the wrong of this and the way to use it properly and improperly. So there's this raging debates on lots of campuses about how to proceed. And the preparedness question is a big one, because a lot of faculty sort of know they have to know these systems and adjust to them in their lives, but they don't feel like they're getting enough guidance from around campus. And they kind of know that colleagues around campus have good applications, but they're not learning about them because best practices are hard to surface.
So as the director of the Imagining the Digital Future Center, are you all providing any recommendations with this report, or is it just this is the state of affairs right now?
It's really sort of a benchmarking document rather than a recommendations document. We at the center know that there are very widespread views about the use of AI and whether it's good or bad. We don't advocate for it. We're bringing these data to public attention, and particularly to attention of colleges and universities, just as an exercise in showing people where the state of things on campus and giving them at least some comfort that the things that they're struggling over on campus are going on around the country. And so we don't make recommendations, but a lot of these faculty members say that they would like to get at least some rudimentary training. They'd love to know best practices around campus about how these tools are being used well in classrooms and how they are really being understood to be forces not for good on campus, so that they had a way of navigating this very, very new terrain.
Do you find that professors are equipped to detect what's AI and what's not? I know in the initial days of ChatGPT, it was like, okay, this is obviously not written by a human, but now things are developing. Do professors feel like they can still sniff out what's AI and what's not?
Not really. Although most professors think they themselves are not too bad at figuring out what's an AI product and what's a human product, but they are very despairing of their colleagues. They don't necessarily trust their colleagues to be able to sort out the AI stuff from the non-AI stuff. The other thing is that a lot of them had tested some of the AI testing systems, the technology systems that are supposed to identify AI generated work. And none of them have any confidence in those systems, in part because of what you said. The systems are getting better and better. And there are even ways that students have figured out how to use the systems to dress up their work or dress down their work to make it look like it isn't AI material. There are lots of students who get their first answer to a ChatGPT query for a term paper or something like that. And then they tell the GPT to sort of go back through their answer and make enough mistakes or do enough things to make it look human, so that the detector systems won't be able to pick it up. So there's sort of an arms race that's going on campus that is very distressing to professors, and they're not confident that they're ever going to be ahead of the game.
Well, it's definitely interesting research, and we appreciate you not only conducting the research, but also joining us to speak about it. Mr. Rainey, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right. It was a pleasure. Coming up on Live Impact News, we're going to have more on that impending winter storm. Meteorologist Hunter Force is going to be here with the latest track, what we can expect locally and around the country. And then we're also going to hear from North Carolina Governor Josh Stein on the state's preparations for the winter weather. Of course, they're under a state of emergency, so we'll get the latest from him. Stay with us. All right, welcome back to Live Impact News. Thanks for sticking with us. I'm joined now by meteorologist Hunter Force, one of our experts on the forecast. And Hunter, all eyes are on the weather this weekend. So we'll get to you in just a second. I do want to mention we are also watching, and you can see that in the box with us, Governor Josh Stein, governor of North Carolina, is set to speak to the media at around 11:15, so any minute now, about winter weather preparations in North Carolina. Of course, they are under a state of emergency right now in anticipation of this winter weather. So we're watching for that. We're going to kick over to that as soon as he comes out. But first, Hunter, the latest on this storm, it sounds like North Carolina could get a mix of that rain and sleet, just kind of like us.
Yeah, they have the chance to see some icing just like we do around here, at least for our inland areas. You know, in the beginning of the week, it was looking like to be a big snowstorm for a lot of us, but unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. We're going to see more of a wintry mix, some ice, and some sleet for most of us here in Hampton Roads, just like a big population of North Carolina could see the same thing, except if you're closer to the coast, especially around the Outer Banks, likely just to see mostly rain, unfortunately. But it's not just going to be Virginia and North Carolina that's going to be seeing this storm. We have over 1,800 miles of winter storm alerts stretching from New Mexico through Texas, up through the Tennessee Valley, up through Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and all of Virginia is under a winter storm watch. And this also includes us here in Hampton Roads, but this does exclude areas like Elizabeth City, so parts of eastern North Carolina, along the Admiral Sound, down into the Outer Banks. They're not included in this because they're expected to see more rain, maybe a little bit of mix, rather than, that sleet, freezing rain, and snow showers. So we could take a look here at the storm timeline. So Marta, Sarah, if you guys have plans Saturday morning.
I did have plans to drive up to Maryland. They didn't last long.
You could still, if you leave early in the morning, you could make it.
I think I'll be here.
Well, good point. But if you have lunch plans, breakfast plans, you should be fine. It's not until Saturday evening into Saturday night where we're going to see more of some snow and mix entering the region. Snow from the south side north, so the state line north, and then more of a mix down in eastern North Carolina. But it's not going to last very long. We're going to see that transition on over to some rain, sleet, freezing rain as we head into Sunday morning, into the afternoon. That's going to linger heading into Sunday night, and then it pushes out of here as we get into our Monday morning. So here we are, 10, 11 o'clock Saturday night. We see some snow through the south side, up through the peninsulas, more of a mix down into eastern North Carolina, and rain into the Outer Banks. So, if you were to see snow accumulation, this would be the time. Saturday night into early Sunday morning. So say you do pick up 1, 2, 3 inches of snow. You're not going to likely be waking up to it because we're going to see that transition on over to some rain and a wintry mix in a couple of hours, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. And that's going to wash away any accumulation you see. So even if you do pick up a couple of inches, it won't last very long, unfortunately, because there we are at 6 o'clock Sunday morning, and we're already seeing rain in the south side, up through Hampton, Cape Charles, Elizabeth City, Edenton, Nags Head, and then a mix around Chicotee, Williamsburg, Gloucester, Matthews, Franklin, Wakefield, along 95, Central Virginia. And it stays like that heading into the late afternoon, or late morning into the early afternoon, but that rain mix line does push further west as we get into the early afternoon, so all of the eastern shore transitions on over to some rain. And then it stays like that heading into our Sunday evening and Sunday night, and then it starts to push out of here getting into early Monday morning. So here's a look at, some of the snowfall potential. You have the Euro, you have the GFS. Euro saying, could pick up maybe half an inch to an inch, could see a little bit more further off to the north. GFS is a little bit more aggressive in terms of those snowfall potentials, but like I was saying before, you may be sleeping when you're getting, a couple of inches, and you may not see it at all, because it could start when you fall asleep and be washed away by the time you wake up. So you may think you got nothing, when in fact you did pick up a little bit.
Just stay up all night. And then
Just if you stay up all night, you may be able to see it. Thank you, Marta. But yeah, eventually, by the morning, it will likely be washed away. But What we're also looking at is that ice impact. So we're going to see some freezing rain. It's not going to be as likely here in Norfolk or Virginia Beach through the eastern shore down into eastern North Carolina. It's going to be more likely where you see these darker colors showing up here on the ice impact potential. So here's a look at that. Throughout the day on Sunday into early Monday morning, we see some freezing rain, especially, in our northern areas around Gloucester, Gloucester Point, Williamsburg, Surrey, Waverly, Rushmere. You guys are in that extreme to major ice impact potential as we go through Sunday into early Monday. Down around, Suffolk, more of a minor impact, but the further west you go becomes more major to extreme. So Ivor, Wakefield, Cortland, you guys are on that major to extreme impact. And down into eastern North Carolina, around Gatesville, Mittensville, Reynoldson, minor to moderate impacts. But of course, the further west you go, Murfreesboro, Seaboard, Halifax, Enfield, Roanoke Rapids, major to extreme ice impacts. So that's all from freezing rain. So it's going to look like rain falling down, but as it touches the surface, it makes contact with the surface, freezes on contact, and you get kind of a glaze over everything. And it makes everything slippery. It adds a lot of weight to, power lines. That's why you see power lines coming down. You could see tree limbs coming on down. So that's why it could lead to a good amount of power outages, unfortunately. But of course, we could see this, trending further to the west or further to the east for that major to extreme impact. But for right now, this is, what the models are saying. So if you're in Williamsburg, Franklin, along 95, out towards Farmville, South Boston, Roanoke Rapids, have to pay close attention to this storm and those ice impacts. And again, closer you are to the coast, it's not as much as an impact. You could see, a little bit of freezing rain, maybe in the beginning, but not expecting some major issues with that, fortunately. But even once we get past this system, you would think we would, maybe we'll warm up. Unfortunately not. These are morning lows heading through this weekend and all of next week, even into next weekend. Teens and 20s, that's it. Oof. It's going to be like we're living up north. It's not going to be feeling like Virginia. Our average low is 33, and we're going to be much cooler than that.
I do have a question about, because today it's supposed to be 60, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why, it just feels like so random that today is 60 and then all of a sudden this weekend we're getting freezing rain and snow. And
I know. It's all because we have there's a high pressure off to our north, this low pressure that's going to be moving in from the west. High pressure, when it's off to the north, can swing on in some cold air. So that's what it's going to be doing. And it's a strong high pressure. So it's really grabbing the cold air from the north and sending it our way throughout pretty much the eastern half of the United States. That low pressure down to the south is picking up some Gulf moisture. So you have moisture getting up through the south, and then you have cold air interacting with it. So it's creating this giant winter storm across the eastern half of the United States.
And if it snows here, if it was 60 degrees today, will the snow even stick? Will the ground be cold enough?
Saturday, here's the thing. Normally it would make it harder, especially if temperatures have been warm the last couple of days. But Saturday morning, temperatures are going to be so cold, like in the upper teens to low 20s. So that's going to really help cool down those surfaces. So it may have an easier time sticking. But you're right. Normally, if it's 60 degrees and then the next day it snows, that heat is trapped, along sidewalks, through all of these surfaces. So normally it would be a little bit harder to stick, but I think this time around it would be a bit easier. But right now, temperatures are in the mid to upper 50s. It's feeling pretty good out there. Our average
Enjoy
high.
today while you can.
Exactly. Enjoy today. Our average high is right around 50 this time of year. You know, we're in the coldest part of the year. But through today, things aren't looking too bad. Tonight, if you have plans, clear skies for the most part, upper 30s to low 40s. By Friday morning in the afternoon, we're in the upper 40s to low 50s. Could see an isolated shower down around the Outer Banks on Friday. But overall, not looking too bad. Here we go into Friday night, and we're already in the mid to low 20s. And then this is, Saturday morning.
Ooh.
That's not even the wind chill. Yeah. So mid to upper teens to low 20s. So that's why I was saying, Marta, that super cold air would really have a good grasp on cooling those surfaces down, allowing that snow to have an easier time to stick, especially if it's that cold all day and there's not going to be a lot of sunshine by the afternoon. It'll be cloudy. So this is 4 or 5 o'clock Saturday. So things aren't still looking too bad. If you went to Maryland, you would have made it.
Well, I have to get back. That's the trick.
That's a good point. But if you made it a day trip.
Well, that's not worth it. A 3-hour drive.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
But here we are, 8, 9 o'clock. That's when we start to see some of those snow showers rolling in into midnight. Seeing some more widespread snow, from the state line north. And then by 2, 3, 4 o'clock, we unfortunately see that transition to more of a wintry mix and rain. So any snow accumulation you saw is saying goodbye in the morning, unfortunately. May take a little bit longer the further north you are. So if you're, around Accomack, Chincoteague, Tappahannock, Gloucester, and you get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, you may have like a little treat of some snow on the ground, but may not stay there very long. But today, like we were saying, great. Mid to upper 50s to right around 60. 54 in Malfa, 52 in Cape Charles today, 59 in Hampton, 62 in Hertford, 57 in Kill Devil Hills. And tonight, a pretty average January night. We'll be in the mid to low 30s, 34 in Norfolk, 32 in Williamsburg, 35 in Hampton, 40 in Hertford tonight, 45 in Kill Devil Hills, 42 in Edenton. There is our cold 7-day forecast besides today and tomorrow. And then we just stay in the 30s and 40s. We have the weather impact alert Saturday evening through Sunday into early Monday morning. And then it stays chilly after that.
So the point is, if you have those preparations you need to make for winter weather, if you need to go fill your gas tank, if you need to fill your tires, get salt, sand, might as well do it today.
Might as well do it today, because it's going to be so... You could wear shorts and a tee and do it. I mean, I feel like
sure.
I've become so acclimated to the weather. Like,
yes.
I feel so quickly that, like, when it's 60 out now, I'm like...
It's summer. Beach
like,
day.
Oh, my gosh. But when it's, like... Even when it's, like, mid-40s, I'm like... I could wear shorts and a tee right now.
I know you are hesitant to make an official snow forecast, but I asked Craig I asked him on Monday, I was like, if you had to just go with your gut, what do you think we're going to see snow-wise in Norfolk? What do you think?
I would say 1 to 3.
He was more specific. I think he just said 3. So 1, 2, or 3.
We're going to get something.
2.5.
2.5.
I'm glad we have the same number, though.
2.64. All right.
Imagine if he said 3, I said 1 to 3, so at least we have...
See, I said 6 on Monday, and that was when the models were showing like 19 inches of snow in some places. And then, of course, as you know, the models change.
Right.
So
that would have been wild
fun.
if we got that much snow.
It would.
Oh, yeah.
I did tell my husband that we have to get our snow snacks today.
Ooh.
Gotta be prepared.
Snow snacks. I mean, I don't even own a shovel. Because
Honestly, you may not even
you're
have
from
to.
Minnesota. I mean, I know, but I've needed it like once last year around this time.
You may not even need to shovel.
I know you said it feels like up north. I was talking to my sister yesterday. They have a cold weather advisory because it's supposed to feel like 35 below.
Yeah, Yes.
So it could be worse.
It could be worse. Where's your sister again?
In northern Minnesota.
In northern Minnesota. Classic.
Classic. Yeah.
And when they get cold weather advisories up there, you know it's cold.
Yes.
Because
they're like, you
it
actually
happens
are
all-
unsafe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you could actually get frostbite walking to the store.
yeah.
So
Well, thank you, Hunter. Thank you for the update. Of course, we'll continue to get updates from you all as this gets closer. But we appreciate it and appreciate you stressing it. This is going to change over the next few days. So keeping a
hopefully
close
not too
eye.
much, but
Yeah, that'd be nice.
we'll see.
We'll
We'll
see.
see a few shifts, I'm sure.
All right, thanks, Hunter. And he'll
you.
be on 13 News Now at noon with the latest forecast. We'll check in with him over the air then. Do want to mention we are still waiting for North Carolina Governor Josh Stein to come out and give an update on emergency weather preps. That's the box you see up in the top corner there. And then in Texas, Governor Greg Abbott is also set to receive a similar update. So states all across the country are preparing for the impacts of this storm. We are going to take a break in a second here, and when we come back, hopefully Governor Stein will be ready to give some comments. If not, we'll talk a little bit about the pointers we have been passing along to people to be prepared for this system. Oh, looks like he's coming out right now. So we'll take a break. When we come back in a few minutes, hopefully he'll be ready to go. All right, thanks for sticking with us here for Live Impact News. Again, Governor Josh Stein of North Carolina giving an update right now on winter weather preparations. The state is under a state of emergency, so let's get right to him and hear what he has to say.
Black ice. So everyone needs to be careful on the roads for not only during the storm, but for a few days after the storm hits. Please avoid driving unless it is necessary to travel. This will keep you safe and the roads clear for first responders and anyone else who must be on the road. Some communities may open warming stations for those who need a safe refuge from the cold temperatures. You can find information on resources in your community by visiting your local government and emergency management agency's website and social media accounts. This morning, in addition to Director Ray and Secretary of Transportation Johnson, I'm also joined by Secretary of Public Safety Jeff Smythe, Major General Todd Hunt of the North Carolina National Guard, and the Commander of the State Highway Patrol, Colonel Freddie Johnson. Jackie Mativier and Mary Lee Bahar are our Spanish language interpreters, and our American Sign Language interpreters are Stephen Holland and Abby Quick. As we stand here now, emergency management officials, Department of Transportation crews, State Highway Patrol troopers, and the National Guard are hard at work preparing for the winter weather, brining the roads, pre-positioning resources, clearing abandoned cars from the shoulders of our highways, and working closely with local governments across the state to coordinate assistance quickly. High clearance vehicles are ready to support stranded drivers. The Forest Service is ready to remove downed trees from roads. Aviation assets, planes, helicopters are ready if needed. During winter weather, just like in any severe weather situation in our state, our number one priority is to keep people safe. So we recommend that you take the following actions to navigate this winter weather event. First of all, stay informed. Make sure you're following your local media, the National Weather Service, and your local emergency management agency. Second, get prepared. Think about what you would need during and after a major storm. Things like enough water, non-perishable food, medication, and supplies for 3 to 5 days for each person and pet in your household. Also, a flashlight, fresh batteries, a way to keep your phone charged, blankets, and winter clothing. Visit readync.gov for more detailed information about how you can best prepare. Next, make a plan. How will you safely heat your home if the power goes out? How will you cook safely if the power is out? And what will you eat if cooking is not an option? Where will you go if you cannot stay at home? Finally, let me repeat this. Starting Saturday, please do everything you can to stay off the roads. Unless you're a first responder or essential personnel, please don't drive unless you have to drive. Fortunately, we have 2 days to make sure that we have everything we need to ride out this storm. Don't wait until it's too late. And if you're getting ready, don't forget to check on your loved ones and neighbors and anyone who might be especially vulnerable, including the elderly. None of us can control what this storm will ultimately look like, but each of us can get prepared. Be ready to stay home for a few days, potentially without power, and know that we are taking this storm seriously and we will do everything we can to keep you safe. Thank you. I'll now invite forward and turn it over to Director Ray.
Thank you, Governor, and good morning, everyone. I want to begin this morning with the forecast as we have it currently, and then provide an overview of our operational posture. As the Governor said, while there are still 2 days before this winter storm impacts North Carolina, confidence in the forecast continues to increase that this will be a significant event covering most of the state. Winter storm watches have been issued for most of the state, with impacts from this storm expected to last into early next week. The most impactful precipitation remains over the weekend, where a wintry mix is forecast across much of the state. Light precipitation is forecast to begin early on Saturday, spreading from west to east. The primary precipitation types include some snow, sleet, and accumulating freezing rain, with the best chances of any accumulating snow being in our northern counties. Our partners at the Weather Prediction Center have placed a probability of 60 to 90% for much of the state to experience moderate impacts. These impacts include hazardous driving conditions, especially in southwestern North Carolina, which can include considerable disruptions to daily life, with dangerous and often impassable driving conditions, as well as widespread power outages and damage to trees. As a reminder, ice accumulations of around a ½ inch of ice or more can cause an increase in downed trees or impact power lines and lead to an increase in power outages, as well as to hazardous travel conditions. Bitterly cold temperatures will move into much of the state Saturday and will last into Tuesday at this time. There are several important reminders if you lose power during this storm. Please ensure that generators are operated outside and away from open windows or doors to prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. Never burn charcoal indoors or use a gas grill indoors. Properly vent kerosene heaters and make sure that all heaters have space around them to reduce fire risk. Use battery-powered sources of light instead of candles to, again, reduce fire risk. And make sure that you have plenty of warm blankets and clothing available. Based on the current forecast, hazardous travel conditions are expected Saturday and Sunday and may remain for several days due to the lingering low temperatures. As the governor stressed, we would ask all North Carolinians to finalize preparations by Friday night and plan to stay off the roads this weekend. Unnecessary travel not only puts you at risk, but also the public safety personnel, power crews, and DOT workers who are working to respond to emergencies, to restore power, and to clear roadways quickly. If you must drive in winter conditions, our partners with the State Highway Patrol advise reducing speed significantly, increasing the following distance between you and other vehicles, and clearing all snow and ice from your vehicle before traveling. Given the forecast, let's make their work easier by staying off the roads unless absolutely necessary. The State Emergency Response Team has been activated here at the State Emergency Operations Center as well as at our regional coordination centers in Kinston, Burlington, and Hickory. Key partners such as the Department of Transportation, the North Carolina National Guard, and the State Highway Patrol, as well as the Department of Health and Human Services, are working to address any resources or support that is requested by our local communities. We've also activated our warehouses in Burlington and in Baden and Stanley County. As of this morning, the State Emergency Response Team has provided water, meals, medical supplies, and heating equipment to local communities or partners who have requested that support. We're mobilizing elements of the North Carolina National Guard over the course of today and tomorrow to be able to assist with stranded motorists, assisting first responders with their emergency response, roadway clearance, and commodity distribution. Additionally, we are placing aviation assets from the North Carolina National Guard and the State Highway Patrol on standby for any rescue or movement of critical resources and personnel into impacted communities as this storm moves out of the state later this weekend and as conditions allow. Hotspot crews are being deployed along our major roadways, primarily in western North Carolina, along I-40 in Clyde, I-40 at Old Fort in McDowell County, on the Saluda Grade in Polk County, along I-77 and US 321 at Turner Grade in Surrey County. As a reminder, these are combination teams of the NCDOT and North Carolina National Guard to ensure safe movement and address stranded vehicles from along our major roadways. These teams will be moved around those impacted areas as needed. The North Carolina Forest Service from the Department of Agriculture will be activating personnel and equipment to assist communities with tree removal from roadways as necessary to ensure both public safety access and general support to those communities. Strategic communications personnel and equipment are being positioned to assist with ensuring communication pathways are sustained and quickly restored if impacted. Our partners at the North Carolina Office of Emergency Medical Services are monitoring the needs of our healthcare community across the state, particularly our licensed care facilities and hospitals, to quickly address any needs impacting patients. We will continue to work with the entire State Emergency Response Team, our local and state governments, the private sector, and our nonprofit and volunteer partners as the forecast continues to evolve to ensure we can support the 11 million North Carolinians. As we go into the weekend, it is imperative that, again, all North Carolinians are prepared with a personal preparedness kit of food, water, flashlights, batteries, and a plan to stay warm if you lose power. For preparedness information and checklists, as the governor said, please visit readync.gov. Finally, please check on your friends, your family members, and your neighbors or those in your community who may need additional support this weekend. We are stronger and more resilient together. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Governor and Director Ray. North Carolina Department of Transportation has been preparing for this storm all week. Our crews and contractors have been busy over the past several days, pre-treating roads, preparing their equipment, and rebolstering our supplies of salt. As noted before, the latest forecasts show a widespread event that's likely to spread ice throughout the state of North Carolina, and an event that has the potential to impact all roads in North Carolina. Some locations could see winter weather like they haven't seen in years. For these reasons, this storm has our full attention. We have more than 2,100 specially trained employees available to respond to the storm. More than 1,100 of those employees have already been hard at work pre-treating the roads. They've pre-treated thousands of miles of roads with over 300,000 gallons of brine. We also have 1,250 dump trucks that can be fitted to clear snow and ice. We've got 913 contract trucks that are prepared and 217 motor graders on standby. We are staging some of that equipment in areas that are known trouble spots during the winter storm. And we have more than 150,000 tons of salt to treat roads and are actively securing additional salt to replenish supplies throughout the storm. If the current forecast holds, road conditions will deteriorate quickly as the storm moves through the state Saturday and into Sunday. Our crews are prepared to work around the clock in shifts to plow and treat snow and ice until the state-maintained roads are cleared. This includes our teams that will work to remove fallen trees and debris from roadways and work with our utility partners in instances that involve down power lines. Their efforts will be invaluable in restoring connectivity if ice is a major component of this storm, which is expected at this time. As always, our first priorities are the major interstates, followed by 4-lane highways, state and U.S. routes, and then secondary roads. We also have a support system in place so staff from less impacted regions can shift resources throughout the state where needed. We always work with our partners in the State Highway Patrol and the North Carolina National Guard as well. As noted before, this storm could be significant, followed by a prolonged period of cold, which means the roads could stay icy for the days ahead. We ask the public for your cooperation and your patience. Our crews will work hard to get your roads cleared as soon as possible. We urge people to get prepared now for what's shaping up to be a very cold period in store for our state. Please don't try to drive once the storm hits unless it's necessary. Cars and ice simply do not mix. This will keep you safe and give our crews and emergency responders the space they need to do their jobs. Once conditions start to improve, please check drivenc.gov to get the latest travel information. Please protect yourselves, your families, and everyone responding to this storm by being patient and playing it safe. Thank you, Governor.
Secretary Johnson from the Department of Transportation. At this point, we're happy to take questions from folks in the audience, and if you would just go to the microphones and identify yourselves, and we'll go from there.
Are there any parts of the state that you're monitoring closely as this storm has the potential to come with some pretty serious impacts?
The weather models indicate that the storm is going to hit the vast majority of the state in one way or another. The greatest likelihood of a lot of snow is in the far southwest, Transylvania County area. And really it's only the far east where there may not be freezing rain or sleet or snow, but pretty much all of the rest of us need to be on alert.
Hi, Caroline Yaffa with WRAL News. What authority does the state have right now if utilities or private contractors fail to restore service quickly, and are you prepared to use it?
I am very confident in the leading utility, Duke Energy, as well as all the electric co-ops and electricities, that they are taking this storm very seriously, and they are bringing in assets from other states that are not as threatened as North Carolina is. And so they are taking it extremely seriously, and we look forward to working with them, clearing the roadways so they can quickly get where they need to go to ensure that people's power is restored as soon as possible. Thank you.
Hey, Adam Ladd from WNC. What are the latest projections from Duke Energy as far as the number of people who could lose power in this storm that you've seen?
I think at this point, it's just entirely premature for them to be able to know how many people will lose power. It really all depends on how much ice accumulates. The more ice there is, the more trees that will fall. If there's incredible amounts of ice, it can actually impact the lines themselves. The vast majority of people will lose power, not because the lines fail, but because trees fall on those lines. So we don't know how extensive it will be. We anticipate that there will be people who lose power over the weekend. Duke Energy is also anticipating that, and that is why they are bringing in crews from across the country so that they can be prepared to respond as quickly as possible. These temperatures are going to be very low in the days that follow, and we don't want anyone to be without power for any minute longer than is absolutely necessary. And I know that Duke Energy feels exactly the same way.
And then Director Ray mentioned the communications infrastructure. I'm wondering if you can sort of walk me through maybe what some of the lessons we learned from Helene and the prolonged outages there, or how those are kind of being used now during this event to keep things up.
Director Ray?
Thanks, sir. Thank you for the question. I think whether it's Helene or some of the events that we've dealt with in the past, I think the continued focus on making sure that state partners, state agencies, response partners, as well as our local communities have multiple layers of redundant communications. And so a number of the response assets that we push out from a variety of the agencies that you see here on the stage now come with some redundant comms equipment that now goes out with them as a result of some of the lessons learned we've had from both Helene as well as some recent events. Those are steps that many of our local governments and major public safety agencies have also taken. We have refined some of the available communications assets that we have here available at a state level. We've moved some of those into primarily a central part of the state based on some potential needs and where we could see maybe potential impacts and need that support. So I think what you're seeing certainly after Helene, but again, really after every event, is a continued prioritization and focus on making sure that we've got the right communications assets out there to be able to support public safety as well as access to public safety. And again, I think our partners at the State Highway Patrol have done an incredible job maintaining the Viper system. And again, I think are focused on making sure that that system continues to be strong and resilient and available for those that need it.
Just real quick, when you say communications assets, are you talking like Starlinks, mobile towers? Like what are we talking about?
All of the above. I think whether it's mobile radios, whether it's a capability like Starlink, whether it's we have mobile towers, we have some other kind of packages that have been put together that have multiple capabilities on it to be able to help local governments or local public safety agencies or our state partners be able to access necessary networks.
Just to follow up on that, General Hunt briefed us this morning about the work of the National Guard, and each of these pre-positioned groups have Starlink with them in addition to traditional forms of communication. We just want to make sure that we're able to talk to each other no matter what happens with the weather. I'm sorry, Dawn.
Right, Dawn Vaughn, the News and Observer. You mentioned a couple different trouble spots. What exactly makes them trouble spots, and what does that look like as far as adding resources there in terms of equipment, personnel? You know, what's the extra going to do to help them?
I'll have Secretary Johnson address that in detail, but basically it's when the places in North Carolina where the highways go up quickly, Old Fort on heading up the escarpment in Surrey County and Polk County, but if you would, Will.
Yes, thank you, Governor. Yes, that's right. I mean, basically anywhere there's a steep grade where traction and it's in icy conditions, vehicles are likely to lose traction and lose control more frequently. So we pre-position. We know this from over time and learning from history, where those spots are going to take place, and so we've pre-positioned some equipment there and some of our resources as well to try to accelerate clearing those roads and getting them back to usable condition.
Is it more trucks? Is it communicating with, tractor trailer trucks that are coming through North Carolina from other states as far as getting the message out about those areas? And, is it just plowing the roads? What specifically are you doing?
I think it's a combination of all those things. I think our ITS team is working hard to get communications out, and we'll continue to monitor the storm. As it's not completely predictable exactly where it will hit, but we can push those messages out both to the trucking community and the traveling public on where those hotspots are. Obviously, we're encouraging everyone in the commercial community and in just the general public that might be traveling to stay off the roads once this storm hits on Saturday. But we will be pushing out those communications to reiterate where those spots might be or where troubles may exist on those spots and other places across the state where we might not expect it.
Actually, Colonel Johnson, I'll have you come forward if you would tell me what because you have troopers in those locations too. What do your troopers experience sometimes in these hotspot locations?
So thank you, Governor. And to add to that, so we have a very strong partnership with the Department of Transportation and our National Guard partners. They'll put heavy vehicles out there to help get these vehicles cleared out of the road if they get stuck, get them out of that area. But what we see is like he said, the vehicles, we have a high concentration of crashes in these areas due to the grade. And then to go further to answer your point, we also communicate. We have a very strong partnership with the North Carolina Trucking Association, and we've messaged with them where these hotspots are as well, so they can alert all these companies. North Carolina is part of a mega transport region, so we have a lot of that traffic in North Carolina. So we partner with them. They notify their federal partners, so everybody gets alerted of what's going on through this area. But we have troopers staged specifically with our Department of Transportation partners and these National Guard units that's going to be there helping us. To answer your question.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hello, Mary Helen with Axios Raleigh. I have a couple questions about the roads too. Are you grateful this storm is arriving on a weekend so you don't have like the 9 to 5 commute to worry about? And when it comes to asking people to stay off the roads, are y'all like calling companies and stuff? Like, are you asking like the Amazons, the delivery drivers of the world to stop this weekend, or are you just relying on them to make those decisions?
Great question. There's no question that the fact that it looks like the storm is going to hit over the weekend, it's good.
All right, so once again, that was North Carolina Governor Josh Stein holding an update for the press and for residents of North Carolina on what to expect with this winter storm. And you can see we also have Texas Governor Greg Abbott providing an update to residents on the preparations that Texas is taking. Of course, this storm is going to impact many states, and it's going to impact each state differently. So the update we get from Texas may be different from North Carolina and different from Virginia. We're going to check back in with Governor Stein as we wrap up here on 13 News Now Plus and see what he has to say.
Okay, thank you.
Governor, with the Glenn Wright with Progressive News, with the Walk for Peace transiting through North Carolina, have you given them any warnings or expressed concerns to them, or are you just leaving it to them to make their decisions?
We are certainly aware of their coming, and we really regret for their sake and the general public's sake. I know people were really excited to welcome them to Raleigh. So we're aware of them. We're in touch with them. At this point, we're not telling them what they should be doing. Again, sort of like with the delivery companies, we leave everyone to make their own judgment as to what makes the most sense for them. And I will ask my colleagues if they have anything else to add. Nope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
It's Ethan from North Carolina's Weather Authority. One of the main questions I'm getting is massive concern across the mountains about if power is lost, how is the state preparing to maintain water resources? Since there's been concerns of weakened infrastructure across Helene. It seems to be a very big concern.
Yeah, the infrastructure concerns are not limited just to electricity, but electricity drives water distribution, wastewater systems. We're worried about telecommunication systems. This has the potential to be a massive disruption to people's lives. There's not that much we can do in advance to pre-position because we don't know where it's going to hit other than what we're doing by going to these sort of known hotspots. But one reason why we have the aerial assets on call is so that if we learn about a specific community that has experienced some catastrophic damage to their water infrastructure, that we can get resources to that area as quickly as possible to get those resources back online. Anything else? Good. All right, at this point, we'll take questions from folks who are by phone. If you could, just...
All right, so once again, Governor Josh Stein addressing the media, answering questions about winter storm preparations in North Carolina. He did address, of course, the infrastructure, including water service after Hurricane Helene, and he mentioned, this could be a big disruption to people's lives. That's why they have aircraft on standby ready to go. I do want to address, he mentioned if power goes out, be aware when you're operating generators. You don't want them to be inside or too near to your residence. You want to avoid carbon monoxide poisoning. They also warned against burning charcoal indoors and advised to use battery-powered items instead of open flames to reduce that fire risk. So we'll continue to get updates both from North Carolina, from Virginia, and from the rest of the states in our region. We'll also hopefully get more updates from our meteorologists, including on 13 News Now at noon, which is coming up in just a moment here. So thank you so much for joining us for Live Impact News. Sarah and I, it was a pleasure having you. We'll see you back here tomorrow.